Let's talk about CPU a little bit. I love this particular view of this particular set of resources, and I'm going to go first because it tickles me, and then you can add to it whatever you like. What we're looking at here is first instant CPU versus OS CPU, that top right versus the bottom left. And if this were my product, I would probably change it so that I've got instance above OS, simply because I like to compare those two, because those should be shaped the same. If they're not, right, if they're not, it means something is running on the computer or on the instance on the virtual machine that is not SQL Server, which is not a recommended practice. And it hasn't happened in the last few years, but in the olden days, I used to get that a lot, that somebody would say, only SQL Server is running on the box. And I would point and say, what's this?
Yes. We even had a customer who they had outsourced their administration, and suddenly things were not finishing in the preventative maintenance window every night. We looked, the admins did not realize that SQL Sentry or DPA was on that box. And it turns out that the admins were running a Bitcoin miner, thinking that nothing's happening at night. So, yeah, so they were trying to make money on that.
That's interesting. I've been at, I don't know if I should say this on a recording, but I will. I've had two separate clients that found their admins running porn sites from when they're within their financial or healthcare applications. Without anybody knowing until a tool that was monitoring picked up on that. But
Wow.
once was an aberration, two was, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening.
Right, indeed.
One other thing I really like about this one is the signal weights percentage. And the signal weights is an indicator that we've requested a CPU and can't get one. And what does that really mean? Well, we can see that the instant CPU is low. Why would the signal weights be high? You want to take a whack at that one, or would you like me to?
Go ahead. Since we're running a little short on time, let's run through that.
The idea behind the signal weights is that if you're running a process in parallel, if the SQL Server says, I want 8 cores, 8 threads to run, then it will wait until 8 threads become available. So if you're running any process which is hogging a thread, or threads aren't available, or particularly within VMware environments, you can't get all the threads you're looking for, then you're going to get a wait. So this is an indicator to us to drop your max stop. But we found a really cool one, about 2-3 months ago, where we dropped the max stop down to 1, which is, hey, you can only get one anyway. We're still experiencing signal weights percentage, and we were able to use that as a smoking gun to figure out that the virtual machine had not been configured properly, and it was not able to get to the CPUs that want it. So again, running low on time, I'm going to speed through this a little bit. So as we talk about queries, it's important to get the slow running queries that the users are complaining about. And that's a good place to start if you're doing a tuning exercise and if you can identify them. But the other thing we like to do is identify heavy hitters. And how do you identify a heavy hitter? Well, a good tool, Solarwinds DPA is a good tool, identifies all of that user experience time that we talked about and adds it up. So we can say that a particular tool here between 3 and 4 p.m. was using a large amount of time. And what I like to do is just start from the top and tune the first 5 or so. And then once those are tuned, get started with the next ones. Here, as we're looking at this graph, the write log time, that is that VLF issue we talked about. And we often find that if we correct the VLF issue, all of that write log time goes away, or it goes down to something which is difficult to measure, which is equally good. Any comments?
No, spot on. I'm thinking the exact same thing.
Great. Historically, another great thing I like to look at. Well, yesterday everything was running in 100 milliseconds, or Here we see 700 milliseconds. Next day it was 500. Next day it was 400. And this is the average wait time. Well, the cool thing about this is where we've gone through a tuning exercise, and late on the 27th, we'd fixed the queries, and guess what? Average wait time now is, tiny fraction of what it was before. But even if you're not doing this, one of the cool things that it gives you is the ability to compare the number of executions with the wait time. So when your client says to you, well, we've just bought 3 of our biggest competitors and we're going to quadruple our throughput, what do you think is going to happen? Well, we can take the busiest queries and look at this and say, all right, well, when you go historically from 1 million transactions a day to 3 million transactions a day, your wait time doesn't change. Or worse, you go from 1 million to 2 million and your wait time doubles or triples. Well, guess what? Scaling is going to be a problem, right? Execution volumes. This is a cool thing to trap as well. I know that for me, going from 1 execution, which is taking a long time, versus 34,000 makes a big difference. It's also nice to pick up on this logical read count, because if I can take a query and tune it, my personal favorite was 1 trillion logical reads an hour, down to 30,000 logical reads per hour. That was 1 index, by the way. Then you know you're going to have a positive effect on the system. And again, sorry, just trying to keep time in here as we're looking at this. Very important to pick up volume, very important to look at scale, very important to be able to determine values. So you go through a tuning exercise and people are asking, is it faster? Well, here's a before picture. Note the scale. We're going out to 170 seconds here. Note the scale for the same 10-minute time period. Now we're going out to 5 seconds. And the only thing we've got to fix now, with the right log barely showing up, now suddenly the right log is up there and say, this is the issue that's popped to the top.
Yeah, that's a dramatic improvement.
Yeah, I like to tune. Good before and afters. This was one of my favorite before and after pictures. And this was one of those, we sent it in a week before we came in. Monday morning, we came in and took a look at what these big heavy hitters were that were crushing the system. And as a joke, the CIO came in at 10 o'clock in the morning and said, so Jeff, have you fixed our problem yet? And I said, no, but we've identified what the issue is. We could fix it right now if you want. He said, show me. And I did, and people started calling. And this was the change in performance. One of my favorite pictures of all time.
So on October 20th is after all the tuning was completed?
Yeah, well, we did it in the middle of October 19th. So I was there on October 19th. Lunchtime, we put some indexes in, and this was the difference between the 19th and the 18th, and then the rest of the week, everything was just swimming.
Yeah, that's, again, dramatic results.
Yeah, it's very cool to be able to make the changes and demonstrate that the changes were effective. There have been occasions over the years, not a lot of occasions over the years, but there have been occasions over the years where we've tuned at the database level and demonstrated that it's 10 times faster at the database level, but the users aren't experiencing a lot of change. Well, that's the time to go back to your resources and say, okay, this is not a database issue.
Right. Got it.
All right. So we've got about 3 minutes left. I'll go over if we have questions or people who want to ask or anybody who wants to get involved in a chat. And I'm not seeing anything pop up in the questions window, but I will make an offer to everybody who's listening to this now, and that is a lot of you have downloaded a demo version of DPA. Many of you have access to it. I've been doing this for a very long time, and I've been working with DPA for, You saw a DPA screen on there from 2012, so at least 12 years, and I don't think that's. I think I've been working with it longer. Anybody who
Mm.
buys this who's interested, I will spend an hour with you after the installation and talk to you about what DPA is showing you, what it means, walk you through how to use it. You just have to reach out and ask. How do you reach us? The contact us is down there below. Soaring Eagle does resell the software, and Solarwinds is happy for us to do that.
Mhm. Thank you. In fact,
You're
not only
welcome.
do I thank you, but my children thank you. So helps pay the mortgage.
Please tell your children they're very welcome, and I'm happy to get involved. And at
Yeah,
this point,
fantastic. And folks, let me just add to what Jeff is saying is that great consultants are hard to find. People who really have thorough knowledge of the system, its internals and its architecture, they're not common. And so an offer for some free time with Jeff is extremely valuable. I really do encourage you to take this up as a potential solution to many, many problems and a way to accelerate adding value to your business. Most of us, when we have to deal with IT problems, that's not making us better at what we do to earn a profit. At the end of the day, it's just the table stakes to stay in the poker game. But when you have somebody like Jeff and his team, you can do so much more and focus so much more of your energy and attention on the next release of the software that you run. Or maybe spending some time figuring out, can we apply analytics? Or you're probably hearing all the hype about generative AI or things like that. So this enables you to focus on what can make you perform better or your organization perform better, and let Jeff and his team take care of all of the things that are holding you back from that, rather than spending all your time just trying to get back to that kind of barely acceptable level of performance.
thank you, Kevin. I appreciate the kind words, and we will do our best to live up to them. And if we can reduce stress, that is our role as consultants. So we like to do that stress reduction. So I'm not
And if
seeing
you don't
any.
mind, I'll put in one more word too. So one of the services that Jeff offers is called Managed Service Provider. And so let's say you're a small or medium-sized shop and you do have one or two people who are very good at being the data administrator or database administrator. Or maybe they're your most knowledgeable developer who works with databases. Well, what happens if they want to take a vacation? You've got no one, because that's the person who solves your problems when it comes to database. So again, this is a service that Jeff offers in which his team will take care of the management of your system. And so that's another great service that I recommend to smaller shops or shops that